We have something we want to talk about today.
The ultra-terrestrials, I think, have you heard of the P-52s and the P-47s?
The United States, China, and other countries have weapons well beyond the capabilities of nuclear weapons. They have weather and tectonic weapons.
If you're not aware, now you're aware. They're selling children on Vinted.
Documents that would put lives at risk.
When they just survive.
So the ultra-terrestrials, I'll just tell you. The ultra-terrestrials, I think, have you heard of the P-52s and the P-47s? Do you know what that is? They're us from the future. They're from here. They are you. They are me. They're from here, from the future. P-47 is present plus 47,000 years. P-52 is present plus 52,000 years. And basically there's a calamity, right? So there's like a apocalypse scenario in the near future.
Her name was Amy Eskridge, anti-gravity scientist, former president of the Institute for Exotic Science, one of 11 researchers linked to classified projects who either went missing or died under suspicious circumstances. This video was recorded before her death. She says the beings we call aliens are not from another planet. They are us, from 47,000 and 52,000 years in the future, after something catastrophic happens to humanity. They came back. Police ruled her death a suicide, but her name ended up on a federal investigation list. What exactly did she know? If you enjoy videos like this, follow, or we may never see each other again.
You know, seeing the videos of her specifically are a little wild because in that clip, and I think there's a handful of clips of her in this location filming like this, like she's streaming or creating content, and they all seem like she's not doing so well. Like there might be some mental health issues involved. That's the biggest thing that throws a little bit of cold water on this whole theory with the missing scientists. That being said, I don't think it's enough. There's so many of them who have gone missing in very odd circumstances that it definitely still throws up a red flag. But in this case, her behavior is so bizarre, it makes you question maybe the official narrative on her, at least, is potentially true. That being said, there were claims and some odd evidence about stuff that was happening to her fingers, that they could have been, using some type of direct energy weapon or something. I don't know if you want to call it a weapon, but tool to sort of mess with her body. Havana syndrome is a real thing. We know a lot more about that. So we know that those types of things do exist. It makes you wonder, knowing her background, how intelligent this person is, like, were they doing other things to her, potentially to cause her to go into a mental health episode? That is something that I'd definitely be willing to consider. We know that kind of stuff has happened in the past. Look into Jolly West and some of the MK Ultra stuff, and you know all about that. But she definitely doesn't seem unwell here, and so just taking her at face value on this one is not something I would do. There's definitely something going on here.
So the conspiracy theory states that the United States, China, and other countries have weapons well beyond the capabilities of nuclear weapons. They have weather and tectonic weapons. I don't know if they actually do. Again, it's conspiracy theory. In this capacity, there are people who believe that it may be China, or they're the principal, antagonist in this regard, because we cut off half of their energy for 4 months. The theory states that China utilized some kind of directed energy weapon, perhaps from space, to trigger a tectonic release in Venezuela twice, causing a doublet. Kind of silly, if you ask me, really.
There's always been the crazy stuff like this. Again, we know certain direct energy weapons now, especially because of the Havana incident. We know these types of things are out there. To what degree are they able to impact the environment? Causing an earthquake is very different than sending in like sounds and messing with people's hearing. So those are two very different things, but we knew you are able to prove now at this point that they are working on some more exotic, shall we say, alternative weapon systems. How far are they able to go? Earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes have always been one that people have talked about. There's been a lot of that talk with some of the hurricanes that have happened in the U.S. in the past few years. Earthquakes, it seems wild. It's hard to take it seriously, but can't help but wonder.
You say that there's this old rumor, conspiracy theory that Greece has a hidden prison near its border. Not in my experience. I think that's really all it is a conspiracy theory. Certainly no Greek official ever mentioned it to me or to anybody else at the American embassy. And it wouldn't make any sense. I mean, the 1967 to 1974 military junta was such a trauma to Greece as a nation. Just the idea of a secret prison like the military junta had between 1967 and 74 is just so anathema, Greek word, anathema to what Greece is today. I can't imagine such a thing could possibly exist.
I've never heard about this one. And there's a complicated history, modern history with Greece that I'm really unaware of. So I don't really know much about what's being spoken about here. But in terms of Greece's secret prisons, yeah, I mean, I would tend to believe what this guy has to say. I mean, he said secret prisons definitely exist. Maybe not in Greece or under control of the Greek government, but the U.S. certainly has some, 100%. If you don't believe me, what about Guantanamo Bay? You think they just started up Guantanamo Bay after 9/11? You don't think that existed before 9/11? You don't think Guantanamo Bay has been around for decades? It just came out after 9/11 because that's where we're putting all the terrorists. You don't think there's other places like that in the world that the United States controls where they put, high-level criminals? I think you're crazy if you think that's the case.
So today is the 29th of June 2026 and CERN is shutting down. Why should we care? Well, let's have a look at what happened the last few times that they did this. In the year 2000, they shut it down. In 2001, we had the Twin Towers event. The next time they shut it down was 2008, and the entire economy shut down within the same week. The next time they shut it down was for a longer period of time between 2018 and 2022, and we all know what happened right in the middle of that, 2020. But we're just crazy conspiracy theorists, so let's just hope it's all just one big coincidence, eh?
We saw another guy talking about CERN not too long ago, critiquing someone else's claims about the Mandela effects and stuff like that. And, one of the problems with a lot of this online content that you see is that it's so easy to fact check a lot of this stuff, and most people don't. And the only reason I know this is because of the content that we saw a few weeks ago where the guy was talking about CERN and Mandela effects from a critical lens. And CERN, and I was just curious, so I happened to look it up after that TikTok. And CERN didn't even turn on for the first time until 2008. So how exactly did they turn off in 2000? And I'm just going to go ahead and double check it again real quick. Let's see, when did CERN go online first time? For the first time. And yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry, I was like, what? Okay, so it says it came into being on September 54th. Oh, okay. CERN as a group. I see. Okay. The first particle accelerator, the synchrocyclotron, started up on May 11th, 1957. So I was actually wrong. What a great lesson we're learning here live as I do this. Like, there was a particle accelerator on pre-2008. What I was referring to was the famous Large Hadron Collider, which was the world's largest accelerator, and that didn't turn on until 2008. That's the one that turned on in 2008 that I mistakenly thought was the only one. Apparently, there has been particle accelerators around since the late 50s. So maybe what they're saying is true. What a great exercise. So the point I'm trying to make here is that, a quick Google search, say what you will about Google, right? There's plenty of arguments for that, for sure. I'm not saying that that's the most reliable source, but it's a quick and easy way. And let's be honest, most of us aren't going to do in-depth research into this stuff. We're just not, and that's 99% of people. So, but if you're really curious about these kinds of things, take 30 seconds, take a minute or two and just type it into a Google search and see what pops up.
They're not selling children on Vinted. They're not selling children on Vinted. Nobody is trafficking children through a used clothing website. I am watching this mass hysteria, this mass internet psychosis, this conspiracy theory spread like wildfire over TikTok. I got on today and like every video is like, guys, they're selling children on Vinted, in these like whispery voices. And my first thought is like, this Vinted conspiracy is to Gen Z on TikTok what the Wayfair conspiracy was to QAnon Gen Xers on Facebook. There's nothing new under the sun, y'all. This is just a repackaged Wayfair conspiracy and y'all are falling for it. If I see one more girly with Jesus is my savior and a Bible verse in her bio saying shit like this.
If you're not aware, now you're aware. They're selling children on Vinted.
No, they're not.
Yeah. You heard that right.
No.
Every person that is caught hurting a child, every person that is distributing CP, any person that touches a child should be publicly...
Oh, hey, Jesus, iced coffee, lifestyle content, modestly Samantha, financial freedom here. You mean like Donald Trump and his associates? Is that who you mean? Oh, wait a minute. This is yet another far-right conspiracy theory meant to distract you from the ways that children actually are abused and trafficked. Yet another conspiracy theory. So much of the content that I made in the before times was debunking right-wing conspiracies around trafficking children and stay-at-home moms. It's not just this girl. They're everywhere. It's all over TikTok.
Hi, they're selling on Vinted, and more of you should be talking about. People on Vinted are selling children's toys at very insanely high prices and then describing them in the description as tight or toddler or newborn. Vinted is an online store that's used for buying, selling, and swapping, clothing, products, toys. So you might be wondering, why and how is this happening? It's happening because of Leah. And because no one is stopping them. So here's what you need to truly believe. Vinted does not even know this is happening. So the way to get their attention is to email them.
It's not happening. It's not happening.
Video spreading awareness about.
No, I'm not even going to get through that. We need to spread awareness. We all need to email Vinted. Vinted actually put out a statement on their social media that was like, guys, this is not happening. Here we go. We have thoroughly investigated the listings currently being shared online and found no credible cases linking them to criminal activity. These listings are deliberately faked to fuel this conversation. We are swiftly removing them and taking action on the accounts banning them.
Look at this. That's a description for a stuffed animal? 3-year-old girl, tight, newborn? They are literally telling us in our face what they are doing. They never stopped after Wayfair. They just got better at covering themselves.
This is so fucking irresponsible. Every single one of y'all influencers posting these videos should be ashamed of yourselves. They never stopped after Wayfair. Wayfair was a conspiracy theory straight from QAnon. Nobody was trafficking children on the Wayfair furniture website. $5 says you think Pizzagate was real. Nobody is trafficking children this way. They don't have to. It's just so, oh my God. I realize we live in an era of like anti-intellectualism, and we live in an era where people want to believe in conspiracy theories because everything feels so chaotic, right? Because the Epstein list is real. Jeffrey Epstein and the most powerful men in the world trafficked boys, girls, and women. So now you want to believe everything is a conspiracy, including making up conspiracy theories about the Epstein files. And, Donald Trump and any good con man, Their grift, their disinformation, the conspiracy theories they put out have grains of truth in them. Oh, my neighbor's dog's real excited. It's okay. We'll just bear with it. He's real sweetie. These conspiracy theories always have a grain of truth in them to distract you from what's happening. Like Donald Trump said, I'm going to drain the swamp. He said that the Clintons were in the Epstein files. Every accusation is a confession. Every conspiracy theory has elements of what they're actually doing. Yes, wealthy, powerful men were trafficking children, but not on fucking Wayfair and not on like the high-end equivalent of Depop. Give me a fucking break. You think the wealthy, powerful men in Jeffrey Epstein's circle need to use a used clothing and toy website? You think that's what's happening? The girl in that photo, first of all, the original post, people were freaking out because they would list clothing and an age range. And then they would list potentially really high prices. Well, anybody who sells stuff used, you know that you often put up a price that is like eye-popping and it gets people to come and then make an offer, make a lowball bid. Or there are just typos, whatever. When you're selling children's clothing and toys, an age range is usually included, and often if it's clothing, sizes. So no, somebody posting a pink tutu and it says 3-year-old, you know, however many kilograms, however many centimeters, that's not them listing a child of that age and size. It's literally the fucking age and size of a child who would wear that garment that they're selling. It's mass hysteria. It's mass hysteria. This is the same shit as Wayfair. It's also the same shit as all of those white protected girls, college students, who thought that if they touched the handle at the gas station pump, that they were going to get dosed with fentanyl and trafficked out of a gas station. That's not how trafficking happens. It happens like Ghislaine Maxwell coming up to young women and be like, hey, you want to be a model? Hey, you want to come work for us? Hey, you want to come, you know, work at this luxury resort? Come on, I'll bring you on board. It's people forming connections and luring folks in. And actually, overwhelmingly in the United States, the folks who are trafficked by somebody that they know. Overwhelmingly, it is a young, vulnerable girl or woman who is trafficked by her boyfriend, her stepdad, her mom, somebody that she knows. And she doesn't even realize she's being trafficked until it's too late. Very much with Epstein's victims, they trusted Ghislaine. They trusted some of these other women handlers. They didn't know that they were being trafficked until they were there and they couldn't get out. Nobody is selling little children on this website. And it's so frustrating to see people distracted by this shit all over again. Gen Z on TikTok, you were acting like QAnon Gen Xers who fell for the Wayfair conspiracy. It's embarrassing. You should be embarrassed.
So a lot there. A lot of what she's saying, I think, has a lot of merit to it. That being said, man, God, is it like so difficult to listen to folks like this sometimes because you get this on both sides of the aisle. I think it's pretty clear this person's biases. They pretty clearly wear them on their sleeves, in my opinion. In case you missed it, this is someone who is likely leans more towards the liberal end of the spectrum, more towards the left end of the spectrum, whatever you want, however you want to label it, right? And just the attitude, sometimes there's a certain type of person who comes across with this like superiority complex that's really insufferable. And it's unfortunate because a lot of what they're saying, I think, has merit to it. But because of the attitude and just the vibe and the whole persona and the energy that's coming across, it just reeks of moral superiority and intellectual superiority. And I think that's really, frankly, subconsciously maybe, what's driving this reaction more than anything. It's the need to sort of show that I'm superior.
QAnon. In October 2017, an anonymous user on 4chan's poll board began posting messages while claiming to be a US government official with Q-level security clearance. The user, who became known simply as Q, predicted that Hillary Clinton would soon be arrested and suggested that major events were taking place behind the scenes in the US government. These posts were the first of what would eventually become thousands of messages known as Q drops. At first, the posts were largely confined to online message boards. However, several early promoters, including Paul Ferber, Coleman Rogers and Tracy Diaz began interpreting the messages and sharing their explanations on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, transforming an obscure internet phenomenon into a movement with millions of followers. As the movement grew, a broader conspiracy theory developed around Q's messages. Followers came to believe that a secret network of powerful people from democratic politics, Hollywood, and global finance was controlling world events. According to the theory, this group was involved in crimes against children and used a substance called adrenochrome to maintain youth. Supporters also believed that Donald Trump was secretly working to defeat this network, and that a future event known as the Storm would expose the conspiracy and lead to mass arrests. The growing popularity of QAnon eventually attracted the attention of law enforcement. In May 2019, the FBI identified QAnon as a potential domestic terrorism threat. That same year, the movement became linked to a real-world act of violence when Anthony Comello murdered the boss of the Gambino crime family after reportedly believing that the victim was connected to the so-called deep state described in QAnon theories. Although Q continued posting for several years, the final message appeared in December 2020. By that point, the movement had grown far beyond the original posts, with followers creating their own interpretations and spreading related conspiracy theories across the internet. 6 weeks after Q's final post, on January 6, 2021, at least 34 QAnon supporters participated in the attack on the United States Capitol.
Number one, right off the bat, I hate that they call it an attack. That's so stupid. Like, say what you will. I'm not saying what happened on January 6th was acceptable behavior, but there are real coup, what you call a coup, or insurrections that happen all over the world, and it doesn't involve this type of behavior. The idea that a bunch of people wearing MAGA hats and QAnon supporters are gonna overthrow the United States government is the most ridiculous thing. As ridiculous as QAnon was, right? If you think those people were gonna overthrow the United States government, you're equally as ridiculous, right? So there's two sides to that coin, right? And if you believe that was ever even remote possibility, 0.01% possibility, you're an idiot. Plain and simple. You're a fucking idiot. So the fact that we use that kind of language, this is something that just drives me crazy because it's so obvious. It's right in your face. If you take 30 seconds to try and think critically and not be impacted by your own biases, you can see that is you being manipulated to believe a narrative that is not really based in reality. You want to know what a political coup looks like? Go look at the history of Turkey, right? Erdogan's shut down like multiple coups in the last 10 years. Real coups. They were marching on the capital with tanks, right? And soldiers with guns. Right? Military training. That's what a coup is. That's what a coup is. That's what an attack is. Not a bunch of drunk hillbillies. Okay? So, just that shit drives me nuts because it's more this insufferable nonsense that you get, unfortunately, from one side of the political arena, typically. There's whole issues on the other side, and I thought, what I'm talking about right now. So I'm not saying that folks on the other side don't deserve criticism as well for certain behavioral traits, but you get a lot of this nonsense on the left. This again, and they love to talk about faux intellectualism while practicing it simultaneously. So that kind of stuff drives me absolutely nuts. That being said, I think QAnon, similarly to the Wayfair, whatever that website is, Vinted or whatever it's called, these types of things distract from reality. They distract from the real conspiracies. We've talked about this in previous TikToks. There's so much real conspiracy out there where we've got tremendous evidence that is not debatable, right? And a lot of questions haven't been answered. Go look up Gary Webb. Go look up the Boys on the Tracks. Go look up Iran-Contra. Go look up, what happened with a lot of the folks around Clinton. What was it called? Chinagate or whatever under Clinton. Go look up more than Chinagate. There's a bunch of stuff that happened with them. Go look up some of the stuff that Assange said. The woman that we looked at earlier in the TikTok with Vinted brought up Pizzagate. There's still a lot of questions around that were never really answered. You know, and the problem with this stuff is once you start talking like this, QAnon, they're gonna get arrested, the kids under the tunnels, the drinking the blood, you've lost any credibility, any shred of credibility. And so it allows them to dismiss it out of hand, like these insufferable people have been doing in previous TikToks, and none of the real issues ever get investigated, ever get addressed, right? What the Clintons did in certain instances, clearly suspicious, clearly questionable, clearly should be investigated more thoroughly. You can say similar things about, you know, again, because people find it incapable to think with their brains when it comes to politics. You could say similar things about people on the right. Whatever you want to think about Trump, sure, that's fine. I'd go more for the Bushes, but I think they're much better targets. But people on both sides of the aisle have done a lot of shady stuff and are worthy of investigation. And you focusing on goofy ass stuff like the QAnon crap that was, you know, oh, this, that, and the other, the internet's going to shut down and they're all going to be brought to Guantanamo. I mean, brother, it's not going to happen. And the goofy stuff that you're talking about, it just diminishes the whole argument. And it's something that this community needs to police a little bit better, frankly. Like, just stick to the real stuff. It's not as fun as sexy. That's the truth. It's not as fun and sexy and as, you know, intellectually titillating as some of the goofier things. But, you know, Iran-Contra is kind of boring. It is. It's kind of boring. You know, a lot of the stuff that went down in 2008 with the housing crisis and what led up to that and all of those types of things is boring. It's not sexy or exciting or fun. But it's what's real. That's what's really happening, and that's what's really screwing up the country. So if you want to talk about conspiracy theories that are really happening, stick to that kind of stuff. Stick to some of the instances around the Clintons. Stick to what was found in the WikiLeaks emails. Stick to the Podestas. Stick to Iran-Contra. Stick to, there's a lot of questions around 9/11 that are really interesting. Not a lot of proof, unfortunately, but there's a lot of questions. Look at that evidence. Look at, you know, hell, there's evidence around World War II and Pearl Harbor. Look into that. Look into, you know, Kennedy. Look into RFK. Look into MK Ultra. Look into Operation Northwoods. Look into all these things that are far more legitimate and have a lot more reliable evidence than something like QAnon.
1950s, Claire Patterson was a geochemist at the California Institute of Technology. He was trying to calculate the exact age of the Earth by studying ancient rocks, but he kept running into a strange problem. Every sample he tested was contaminated with lead. There was lead in the air, lead in the dust, lead in the rocks, lead everywhere. The contamination was impossible to ignore. Where was all this lead coming from? Then Patterson made another discovery. Americans had 100 times more lead in their blood than ancient humans. Somehow this toxic chemical was almost everywhere in America. Patterson decided to go public. In 1965, he published a scientific paper explaining his findings. He made one thing very clear: lead was dangerous to humans, and they needed to do everything to reduce lead contamination. The companies making billions from lead didn't like that. He was ruining their business, so they went after Patterson personally. First, they tried to destroy his career.
Eventually, a VP of an oil company who was a trustee at Caltech calls the president and asks for him to be fired.
Patterson's research funding was cut off. He was blocked from government meetings where environmental decisions were made. Patterson was smeared in the media. They painted him as a conspiracy theorist spreading science fiction.
We've seen this guy's content before, Mr. Deep Dive or Visual Venture. Really great content. Go give this guy a follow. This is... yeah, I'm just a big fan of what this guy does. I think these types of stories too are so important. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. The real conspiracies aren't fun and sexy. There's no, you know, underground tunnels and, you know, danger and all that stuff. It's paperwork and litigation leading to regulations. That's where real conspiracies are. But I think stories like this, specifically are so important to educate yourself on, because yesterday it was about lead. Today it's about seed oils and yellow number 5 in our food and fluoride in our water, right? Again, however you may feel about that is fine, right? Like, use your brain and put the emotions to the side and think about this logically, right? Like, logically, it makes sense that a company would want to reduce costs and increase profit regardless of the health outcomes of their products, right? So if they're poisoning you, they don't care. You don't believe me? This is a perfect example, right? They've done it before. A lot of these companies that you're buying food from are the same ones that had lead and stuff 50 years ago, right? They're still around. The names may have changed. Ownerships may have changed slightly. Structure might have changed. Brand names might have changed. But a lot of these companies are a lot of blue chip companies like that make, these types of goods are still, they've been around for 100 years. Look at GE, right? Like, people who are making these products have been around a long, long time. They were putting lead in stuff 50, 60, 70 years ago. Now it's yellow number 5 and seed oils, right? So it's interesting. What will we be saying 50 years from now about the stuff in our food and our water? I can't help but relate that to this. And I think these stories are so important to help you contextualize today's arguments.
Well, it's safe to say my last post went absolutely mental, with everybody getting really into the conspiracy theory about millennials. Now I have another one for you guys. So this one is aiming for the girls, but not ruling out the guys, because let's just put it out there and see what comes back, right? So, are you ready? This time, you have to look for marking on your hands. Now, between both of my hands, I only have one marking. And it's a mole on my middle finger. It's the only marking I have on both my hands. And it's there. So, let me know if you've got a marking in the same place and who's in our crew.
What is it supposed to mean? I have one. It's super tiny, but it's there. I think that's a freckle. It's weird because I don't have any other freckles on my fingers, but what does it mean? She didn't say what it means. And also, didn't she have like 3 of them? I want to go back and see the other one. These are the fun conspiracies that I like. There was one about like the mole on the arm or something, which I also have that, but I have freckles all over the place. That was supposed to be for people who were in GATE or something like that. These ones are always goofy and fun. No harm in playing around with these ones. Anyways, we're going to end it there on a fun one. I hope you guys enjoyed these. We'll be back tomorrow with another one. Like, subscribe, comment down below. I know I rant and rave, but I mean, and join in on the conversation, man. Tell me I'm an idiot, I'm crazy. Like, what do you think about it? Let's engage in a discussion. Eventually, I want to get a Discord server set up so we can have an ongoing conversation about some of these things that I think are important and interesting. And I'm going to be contrary. I'm going to be very argumentative with some of these things. So if you feel strongly about some of the stuff I'm saying, please comment down below and let me know. And let's have a discussion. Anyways, thanks for the support. Much appreciated. We'll be back with another one next time. Thanks.